Hey guys, what's going on? So today I have an album review for Last Days of Humanity. It's the sound of rancid juices sloshing around your coffin. So yeah, background listen to Tomb of the Mutilated. Basic as shit. Still a great album. Anyways, so this is the first Last Days of Humanity album. If you don't know them, I'd say they're one of the biggest gore grind bands. I believe they're from the Netherlands. I'd say they're probably the biggest besides like Carcass, but I don't even really know if you could count Carcass as real gore grind because they were only gore grind for a few albums, but they have gore grind albums but not a gore grind band. Last Days of Humanity is just pure fucking gore grind, and they ended up even going gore noise later on, which if you don't know what gore noise is, it's just a more ridiculous offshoot of gore grind, mixed with like noisecore. Gross album cover of a dude with his head, it looks like it got like ripped open or something. You can't really tell. It's a very blurry image. This is put out through Bones Brigade. I know what most of Last Days of Humanity stuff is. Spine text, Last Days of Humanity, pretty cool. Of course, because this is a grind album, songs are really short, so there's 26 tracks. I don't think I'm going to bother reading all of them, but some of the highlights on here are Born to Murder the World, Necrotic Eruption, probably Heck into Red Mush. So those are the three best songs in here, but of course they're all really short songs. There's the disc. Behind that, you got these guys playing soccer with a fucking head right there. Pretty crazy. Fucking trying to take the booklet out. You know, another gore image. Thank yous. There's a picture of the band. I want to say this came out in like 97, 98, maybe 99. You know, probably. It doesn't say on here. I know this came out in the 90s, like mid to late. So anyways, it's the first Last Days of Humanity album, and honestly, I would probably say this is one of their weaker releases, although it's still really good. A lot of people, for some reason, this is their favorite. I don't know why, but I think the reason that a lot of people say this is their favorite is because they only listen to the first like 2 or 3 songs, and then assume that the rest of the album sounds like that. But the first 3 songs sound like they could be on the next Last Days of Humanity album, Hymns of Indigestible Separation, which I'll do a review for that as well because I love that album. The first 3 songs in here are great, but the rest of the album isn't up to snuff with the first 3 tracks. Production-wise, it sounds like they were all recorded differently because the vocal effects sound completely different throughout the album. But the first 3 tracks, you know, they sound really menacing and scary, also pretty catchy, really fast and intense stuff. And then the rest of the album, like, production gets a lot more raw, and the songs get this really weird, like, old school grindcore kind of vibe, similar to like Terrorizer or Napalm Death, where it's like really noisy but like intentionally, and it's not really unhinged for the, I don't know, it just feels like unhinged for the sake of being unhinged, which isn't a bad thing, but that's what a lot of early grindcore is like. And the rest of the album basically sounds like that, but with pitch shifted vocals, and there's a ton of reverb on I think, I want to say it's Cannibalistic Remains is when that starts on this album. But the thing is, this is still really fun to listen to, but it's just not as like intense or scary sounding as their later stuff. It's not as dark, but it's very like over the top and ridiculous. It's still really fun to listen to. Not as much like brutal death metal influence on this one. I think the most like death metal-y they got was the album after this, and then obviously, like I said, they went gore noise later on. But there are some really catchy riffs on here though, here and there. Some punky riffs. There's even some like towards the end of the album, there's some like kind of upbeat sounding, kind of punky riffs, but I think that those are there for like the sake of irony, because they sound like really like upbeat and like almost kind of happy, you know, and that goes into ridiculous pitch shifted vocals and shit. You know, this is a good album, but I feel like it's kind of overrated compared to the rest of their discography, because they got a lot more intense than this, and their songwriting got much better than on this album. Because a lot of the songs on here are very one-trick ponies. I mean, obviously it's gore grind, so you can't expect that much, but I don't know. They did better stuff than this album. This album, it's not the best. It's not bad at all, though. It's still very fun to listen to. This is a very difficult album to review because there isn't much to talk about here. But, I don't know, the atmosphere on here isn't very rich compared to their other stuff. It doesn't feel as, like, gory or intense. It just feels more like over the top and ridiculous. You know, there's like guitar feedback and like a lot of just really like sloppy arrangements, which isn't a bad thing. Like I said, it's grind, so what can you expect? And that kind of adds to the energy. This is a very energetic album, I will say that. Which that's one of the best parts of the album. Born to Murder the World is such a great song, though. I mean, the sample, and then it cuts into just the insane vocals, really aggressive vocals on here. I can't think of very much to say. It's a simple album, but they haven't found their identity yet. The album is the sound of a band that is trying to find what works for them the most, because they just did not find their sound on this album. It's such a weird sounding album. There's, like I said, there's just some very odd sounding, like, punky riffs on here, but with, like, gore grind vocals. But it kind of sounds like they don't quite know just what they're doing yet. We're on later albums, like I said, Hymns of Inadjustable Separation. There are the more gore noisy stuff, like Putrefaction in Progress, or, what's it called, In Advanced Hemorrhaging Conditions. Their sound got a lot more focused on those, but on this album, it's kind of all over the place. But overall, I'd say this is a pretty solid album. I'd probably give it a 7, like a 6.5 out of 10. It's a great album, don't get me wrong, but if you want to get into Last Days of Humanity, I don't know if this is the best example. I'd say their second album, Hymns of It, I keep bringing it up, I'm not going to say the full title. Their second album, that's the best Last Days of Humanity material. That album is catchy and heavy and creepy and dark and just snuffy sounding, whereas this one is mostly just like over the top. Think of this like the gore grind equivalent of like Disorders, Cranial Impalement. It doesn't really feel like an album, you know, because the production quality changes throughout. And it's kind of gimmicky sounding because it's so ridiculously over the top. I mean, gore grind is a gimmicky genre, but this especially is a very gimmicky release. You know, it's really weird sounding in a lot of parts, especially with like those like upbeat riffs in a few songs. And then the vocals with like, you know, a ton of reverb and they're super pitch shifted. It sounds like almost like over the top to almost the point of it being goofy, whereas they got a little more serious on later albums, like I said. But I would still recommend this if you enjoy gore grind. Maybe if you're new to gore grind as a whole, I'd recommend this album. But if you're already into gore grind, but I don't know why you wouldn't know Last Days of Humanity if you already are in, because they're like the biggest gore grind band that isn't Carcass. Maybe Regurgitate is pretty close. But yeah, solid album though. Last Days of Humanity. The sound of rancid juices sloshing around in your coffin, or around your coffin, not around in your coffin. Pretty solid album, but not their best. So yeah, so that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.